A guy's ex-fiancée broke up with him 4 separate times during their engagement. The fourth time, on Valentine's Day, over the phone, while he was out of town, he finally agreed. Said, "Bring back the ring and pick up your stuff." Simple, right? She showed up to his mom's house with her mother, took the ring off, handed it over, collected her belongings, and then looked around the living room and said, "Shouldn't I get more? I'm entitled to half." Half of a house she never lived in, that she never paid a single bill toward. His mother's house. And her mom backed her up, started pointing at furniture. This is a one-story video from the subreddit Pro Revenge with one update. Full story, full closure. Timestamps are below. This post is by a user we'll call Drew. My ex-fiancé broke up with me 4 times, cheated on me with a coworker, and then showed up at my mom's house, demanding half my family's stuff because we were engaged. I laughed in her face. Then she tried to take the ring back too. My ex-fiancé cheated on me, broke up with me 4 times during an 18-month engagement, and then when I finally agreed to end it, she showed up at my mother's house with her mom and demanded half of everything like we'd gone through a divorce. We never even lived together. She wanted my mom's TV. I wish I was joking. Here's the whole thing. I'm Drew, 34 now. This happened about 12 years ago when I was 22, but it's relevant right now because of something that happened last month that brought all of it back. I'll get to that. Back then I was living outside of Minneapolis, still at my mom's house, working at an auto body shop doing collision repair, fender work, paint matching, pulling dents, the usual. It wasn't glamorous and it didn't pay great, but I liked the work. There's something about taking a car that got smashed up and making it look like nothing ever happened. You fix what's broken and move on. Clean. Simple. Wish relationships worked the same way. I was young. Naive. The kind of kid who thought love was something you found once and it just worked forever, like a light switch. Nobody told me that wasn't how it went. Or maybe they did, and I wasn't listening. Probably the second one. My buddy Kyle was the opposite of me in every way when it came to women. He'd been through like 4 girlfriends in 2 years and treated each breakup like a Tuesday. On to the next one was literally his philosophy. I thought he was cold. Turns out he was just realistic. I was the romantic. I was the idiot who thought finding the one at 20 was normal and not statistically unlikely. Kyle tried to warn me about a lot of what happened next. I didn't listen to any of it. Allie. Met her when I was 20. She was 19. Friend of a friend's girlfriend. We ended up at the same house party and spent the whole night talking on somebody's back porch while everybody else was inside. She was funny. Quick. Had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room even when there were 30 other people around. We talked until like 2 a.m. and I drove home that night thinking about her the entire way. First girl I ever said I love you to. First real relationship I'd ever had that felt like it was actually going somewhere. First time I ever thought, this is the person I'm going to be with. Just knew it. Felt it in my chest. 20-year-olds are very confident about things they have no experience with. That's both our best and worst quality. We dated for about 2 years, and things were genuinely good. Or at least I thought they were. She was living with her mom, Paula. I was living with mine. Both of us working, both saving. The plan was to eventually get our own place. Combine our savings, split the rent, build something together. Normal young couple stuff. We'd drive around on weekends looking at apartment listings and talking about what kind of couch we'd get. Stupid, happy stuff that felt like the most important thing in the world at the time. My mom liked Allie. She liked her. That mattered to me because my mom's a good judge of character about most things. She just couldn't see what was coming any better than I could. Or maybe she could and didn't want to ruin it for me. Moms do that sometimes. Then Allie got a second job. She started working evenings at a convenience store. One of those gas station places that's open till midnight. Said she wanted to save faster so she could buy a car and we could start looking at apartments. Made sense. I respected the hustle. I was barely scraping by at the body shop. Collision repair pays okay once you've got experience. But at 22, I was still near the bottom of the ladder. I wasn't in a position to speed things up on my end, so her picking up extra shifts felt like progress. Like we were both working toward the same thing. After a few months at this job, something shifted. Not overnight, more like a slow leak. She was on her phone more, laughed less when we were together. Started canceling plans with these half excuses that didn't quite land. I'm tired. I picked up an extra shift. Jen wants to hang out. Nothing you could point to on its own, but together it added up to a feeling I couldn't shake. One time she told me she had to cover someone's shift, and then I saw her car parked at an apartment complex on the other side of town, nowhere near the store. I drove past it on the way to Kyle's place and just saw it, sitting there. Her little blue Honda that she'd saved up for and was so proud of. At an apartment I didn't recognize. On a night she told me she was at work. I didn't say anything. Told myself I was being paranoid. Told myself there was probably an explanation. Maybe she was visiting somebody. Maybe Jen lived there. Maybe I was losing my mind. You tell yourself a lot of things when the truth is worse than the uncertainty. Then she started giving one of her coworkers rides home after their shifts. A guy named Dylan. She mentioned him once, real casual, the way you'd mention the weather. Dylan lives on my way, so I give him a ride. It's no big deal. Fine, whatever. People give coworkers rides. Didn't think twice about it. Kyle raised an eyebrow when I told him, but Kyle raised an eyebrow about everything. Finding out. I found out from 2 different sources in the same week, which pretty much eliminated any chance it was a rumor. First was one of her coworkers, a girl named Jen, who worked the same shift at the store. Jen pulled me aside at a party and said she thought I should know that Allie and Dylan had been hanging out after work. Not just the ride home, hanging out. At his apartment. Late. Multiple times a week. She said she'd watched it happen for weeks and felt guilty about not saying something sooner. I thanked her. Didn't show any reaction. Went home and sat in my truck in the driveway for probably 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. Part of me already knew. Had known for a while. The car at the apartment complex. The canceled plans. The way her phone was suddenly always face down. You notice these things even when you're trying not to. I sat on it for a couple days. Didn't confront Allie. Didn't tell Kyle. Just carried it around like a rock in my chest. Then Allie's best friend Kim called me. Kim had been closer with Allie than anyone. They'd known each other since elementary school. She sounded uncomfortable on the phone. Said she'd been going back and forth for weeks about whether to tell me, but she couldn't watch it anymore. Allie had been seeing Dylan for at least 2 months. Not just hanging out, seeing him, sleeping with him. At his apartment after work, multiple nights a week. Kim had confronted Allie about it, and Allie told her to mind her business, and that what happened with Dylan was separate from what she had with me. Separate. Like she could just keep them in different boxes, and nobody would notice. 2 sources. Same story, same timeline, same guy, same apartment. There was no denying it anymore. I confronted Allie that night. She cried, denied everything. Said Jen was jealous because she also liked Dylan. Said Kim was being dramatic. Said I was being insecure and controlling for even bringing it up. I was 22 and in love, and she was crying in my arms, and I believed her. I actually believed her. Because when you love someone that hard, you'd rather be wrong about the evidence than right about the betrayal. I let it go. Told myself the rumors were just people being messy. Went back to normal. Looking back now, 12 years later, that's the moment that still makes me cringe the most. Not what she did. What I accepted. I had the truth sitting right in front of me, and I chose the comfortable lie. That's on me. The trip. About a month after I decided to believe Allie's denials, because that's what I did, I made a decision to believe her, even though every piece of evidence said otherwise. My buddy Kyle brought up a trip. 4 of us from the shop were going to drive down to South Padre for a long weekend. Kyle, me, and 2 other guys, Jake and Pete. I'd never been to Texas. Never been on a real trip at all, honestly. The farthest I'd been from Minneapolis was a family camping trip to Wisconsin when I was 12. I had a little money saved from overtime at the body shop, and I figured a few days away from everything might clear my head. Give me some distance from the situation with Allie. She wasn't thrilled about the trip, didn't fight it openly, but made sure I knew she wasn't happy through the usual methods. Short texts, long silences, one-word answers. I went anyway. I'm not going to sugarcoat this part because it matters for understanding the rest of the story. While I was in Texas, I messed up. Second night, bar on the beach, met a girl, made a terrible decision. I regretted it immediately, like within the hour. This crushing guilt that sat on my chest like a cinder block for the rest of the trip. Couldn't sleep right. Couldn't eat. Every time my phone buzzed and Allie's name popped up, I felt physically sick. Kyle asked if I was okay, and I told him I ate something bad. Couldn't bring myself to say the truth out loud. Was it revenge for what she'd been doing with Dylan? Probably. Subconsciously. Some part of my brain went, she's been doing it for months, so what does it matter? And that part won for one night. But that's not an excuse, and I'm not pretending it is. I did a bad thing. I carry it. I'm not the victim of that particular moment. I'm the cause. When I got back to Minneapolis, I was such a mess of guilt and confusion that I did the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. And that includes the time I tried to fix a dent with a plunger at the shop. I went straight to a jewelry store and bought an engagement ring. A ring. That was my solution. Not therapy, not an honest conversation, not breaking up with a girl who was already cheating on me. An $1,800 diamond ring purchased with overtime money by a 22-year-old brain that somehow concluded the appropriate response to infidelity on both sides was a lifetime commitment. Kyle found out about the ring and called me. You're joking. I wasn't joking. Drew, bro, you're proposing to a girl you know is cheating on you because you also cheated on her and feel bad about it. Do you hear yourself? I heard myself. I just didn't listen. I proposed. She said yes. She cried. I cried. We held each other, and I convinced myself that everything was going to be fine, and we'd start fresh, and the past was the past. The delusion was Olympic level. I should have gotten a medal. The 4 breakups. We were engaged for about 18 months. During that time, she broke up with me. 4 times. 4 separate times. Over the dumbest things you could possibly imagine. Each one following the exact same pattern. She'd get upset about something small, escalate it into a crisis, say, we need to talk, dump me, and then come back a few days later acting like nothing happened. Breakup number 1. She came over to my mom's house with a bag of laundry because her mom's dryer was busted. I tossed it in with mine. Normal boyfriend stuff. When the cycle finished, she opened the dryer and pulled out her clothes. They were slightly damp, not soaking wet, not ruined. Damp, like maybe needed another 10 minutes on low heat. She stuffed everything in her bag, grabbed her keys, walked out without a word, and dumped me by text when she got home. I don't think this is working. Over damp clothes. I sat on my bed staring at that text for probably an hour. I was crushed. First time anyone had broken my heart, and I didn't know what to do with it. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Called Kyle and he came over and sat with me and said, dude, she dumped you over laundry. This is not the one. I didn't listen. She called 2 days later acting completely normal. Like nothing happened. I let her back in because of course I did. Because I was 22 and stupid, and I thought love meant never letting go, even when someone keeps throwing you on the ground. Breakup 2 was about 3 weeks later. Something about me not responding to a text fast enough while I was at work. She sent me something at 2 p.m. I was under a car doing frame straightening. My phone was in my locker. Didn't see it until 5. She'd already sent 4 follow-ups by then, escalating from hey to I guess I know where I stand. By the time I called her, she was done. Dumped again. Back together in 2 days. Breakup 3 was because I made plans with Kyle on a Saturday night she apparently wanted to go to dinner, but hadn't told me about. She had the dinner planned in her head. I had no idea it existed. And somehow I was the one who didn't prioritize her. Kyle made fun of me for taking her back that time. You know you're a clown, right? Yeah, Kyle, I know. But I stopped taking the breakups seriously. They became background noise. She'd dump me, I'd wait a couple days, she'd come back. It was exhausting, but I'd normalized it because that's what you do when you're in too deep. You adjust to dysfunction until it feels like routine. Breakup 4. The real one. The one that finally stuck. I was out of town for a work training thing. 3 days in a hotel outside of Chicago, learning about new paint systems for the shop. Valentine's Day fell right in the middle of it. I called her from the hotel that evening to ask how she wanted to celebrate when I got back. Maybe dinner. Maybe a movie. Something simple. We need to talk. Those 4 words. Same flat tone. Same script. Every single breakup started with those 4 words. She said she wasn't sure this was what she wanted with her life. That she needed space. That she didn't know if she was ready to be engaged. The usual vague stuff people say when they want out but don't want to be the bad guy. Except this time, I didn't fight it. Something in me just snapped off. Not anger. More like exhaustion. 4 breakups in 18 months. Cheating rumors I'd been too dumb to act on. A relationship that felt more like a hostage situation with a ring on it. Okay, I said. When I'm back, come get the ring and pick up your stuff. I'll have it ready. She went quiet. Long enough that I checked if the call dropped. That's it? Yeah, Allie, that's it. I think she expected the usual routine. Me begging, apologizing for whatever she decided I did wrong, promising to be better. Instead, she got a guy who finally hit the bottom of his willingness to care, and she didn't know what to do with that. Edit. People saying I should have ended it after the first breakup. Yeah, obviously, but when you're 22 and in love with someone, you don't make smart decisions. You make 22-year-old decisions, which are often terrible. Edit 2. Yeah, the ring was a guilt purchase. I know. I've had 12 years to think about how stupid that was. Trust me, I'm aware. Quick math on this relationship. She cheated on him. He cheated on her back. His solution? A diamond ring. I'm sorry, but that's like your house being on fire and going, you know what'll fix this? A second, smaller fire. Also, 4 breakups during one engagement is insane. That's averaging 1 breakup every 4.5 months. At that point, it's not a relationship. It's a subscription she keeps canceling and re-signing up for to get the free trial again. Anyway, she finally dumps him for good on Valentine's Day, which is honestly poetic. And he says, okay, 2 letters, that's it. I guarantee Allie practiced a 30-minute speech in the mirror, and Drew hit her with a 2-letter response. She was not prepared for okay. Nobody ever is. Now she's coming to collect her stuff, and she's bringing reinforcements. Update posted 3 weeks later. Update. She came to get her stuff. Then she and her mom started pointing at my family's furniture. The audacity was almost impressive. Quick recap. Ex-fiancée of 2 years cheated on me with a coworker I proposed out of guilt like an idiot. She broke up with me 4 times during the engagement. The 4th one finally stuck. I told her to come get the ring and her stuff. Here's what happened. The pickup. She showed up 3 days after I got back from the training trip. I had everything ready. The few things she'd left at my mom's house over the 2 years we were together. Some clothes, a pair of shoes, her shampoo and conditioner, a hairdryer, and a copy of some movie on DVD that I'd paid for but didn't want. That was it. 2 years together, never lived in the same house, and her entire footprint in my life fit in 1 grocery bag and a shoebox. She didn't come alone. Allie showed up with her mom, Paula. Now I'd met Paula plenty of times. She was one of those moms who treated her daughter like a best friend instead of a child. Whatever Allie wanted, Paula backed. Whatever Allie felt, Paula validated. They were a unit in the worst possible way, like a legal team where one person makes the argument and the other one nods aggressively. They walked in and I kept it simple. Handed Allie the grocery bag and the shoebox. She set them down, pulled the ring off her finger, and gave it to me. Fine. Mature. I thought we were done. Then she looked around my mom's living room, slowly, like she was appraising the place, and she said something that I will remember until the day I die. Shouldn't I get more? I must have made a face because she immediately doubled down. I mean, we were engaged. I should get more stuff. I'm entitled to half, right? I laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one. The kind that comes out before your brain can stop it. I was standing in my mother's living room holding a ring I'd bought out of guilt for a woman who'd broken up with me 4 times. And she was telling me she deserved half. Half of what? We never lived together, never shared a lease, never split a bill. She'd never paid a single dollar toward anything in that house. It was my mother's house, my mother's furniture, my mother's TV. Half of what, Allie? We don't even live together. This isn't your stuff. It's not even my stuff. It's my mom's. That's when Paula stepped in. She started walking around the living room, my mother's living room, in my mother's house, pointing at things. The TV, the bookshelf, a lamp on the side table that had been there since I was literally a child. Well, you've been together for years and she's invested a lot of time in this relationship. That should count for something. Time has value. Time. She invested time. Like she'd been clocking in and was owed overtime and a severance package. I'm not giving you my mother's furniture, Paula. It's not about the specific items. It's about the principle. The principle of what? She dumped me 4 times. She ended this on Valentine's Day while I was in a hotel room, and now she wants furniture from a house she never lived in? That belongs to my mother who isn't even here right now? Allie jumped in. Her voice got that shaky thing it always did right before she cried. I just feel like after everything we've been through, 2 years, an engagement, all the time I put in, I should walk away with something. That's not crazy. You're walking away with your clothes, your shampoo, your hairdryer, and a DVD that I paid for but don't want. That's everything you own that was in this house. That is literally it. There is nothing else here that belongs to you. What about the ring? I bought the ring. You gave it back. It's mine. But it was my ring. It was your ring while we were engaged. We're not engaged anymore. Because you ended it. For the fourth time. They kept going for another 5 minutes or so. Paula pointed at a picture frame on the wall. A family photo of me and my mom from like 10 years ago. Allie mentioned the coffee maker. The coffee maker that my mother bought. With her own money. At Target. For her own kitchen. In her own house. These two women wanted my mom's coffee maker because 2 years of being in a relationship should count for something. I've replayed that scene in my head probably 1,000 times over the years, and it still doesn't make sense. We never lived together. She never paid a bill. She never contributed a single dollar to anything in that house. And she was pointing at appliances like she was filing a claim. I walked to the front door and opened it. Wide. We're done here. Take your bag and leave. Paula huffed something about this not being fair and started toward the door. Allie picked up the grocery bag and the shoebox. Stood at the front step for a second, looking at me with this expression I'd seen at least 3 times before. The one she wore right before breakups 2 and 3. The wounded look. The soft eyes. The slight tilt of the head. She was waiting for me to blink. To say wait. To say I didn't mean it. To ask her to come back. Same play she'd been running for 2 years straight. Except this time, there was no pull. Nothing. The hook was gone. The line she'd been reeling me in on for 2 years had finally snapped, and there was nothing on the other end anymore. I looked right at her and said, "Good luck, Allie. You're gonna need it, both of you." She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at her mom, looked back at me, then turned around, got in Paula's car, and drove away. My mom came home about an hour later, and I told her what happened. She went quiet for a second. Then she walked to the living room, looked at her lamp, looked at the coffee maker, looked at the TV, and goes, "She wanted my things?" I said, "Yeah." My mom shook her head slowly. "That girl has her mother's nerve and her mother's math skills. Neither one of them adds up. That was the last time I saw Allie for 12 years. The ring. Took it to a pawn shop the next day. Got about 40% of what I paid, which stung. $1,800 ring. Walked out with maybe $720. But honestly, I just wanted it gone. Wanted it out of my house and out of my head. Used the money to pay off a credit card I'd been carrying a balance on since the trip. Felt like the first genuinely smart financial decision I'd made in 2 years. Maybe the first one I'd made ever. Kyle took me out that weekend. Dive bar near the shop. We sat in a booth and I told him the whole story. The furniture, the coffee maker, Paula pointing at the lamp, the ring argument, the "I'm entitled to half" line. He laughed so hard the bartender looked over to check if we were okay. "She wanted the lamp? Your mom's lamp? The one with the ugly shade that's been sitting in the same spot since we were in middle school? That exact lamp. Bro." He took a sip and shook his head. "You didn't dodge a bullet. You dodged a whole missile. Like a surface-to-air missile. That thing was locked on and tracking you and somehow you survived." He wasn't wrong. He'd been right about everything from the beginning. About Allie. About the ring. About taking her back after every breakup. I just hadn't been ready to hear it until I'd done every dumb thing first. "You know what the worst part is?" I told him. "She never even apologized. For any of it. Not the cheating, not the breakups, not the furniture thing, nothing. She just left. And I don't think she thinks she did anything wrong." Kyle looked at me for a second. "Some people don't, man. Some people go through their whole life thinking everybody else is the problem. And there's nothing you can do about it except not be standing next to them when it all falls apart." That stuck with me. Still does. 12 years later. Here's why I'm writing this now. Not because of what happened back then. I processed that a long time ago. But because of something that happened last month that brought all of it rushing back. I'm 34. Married. My wife Hannah and I have been together 7 years. Married for 4. We own a house in Woodbury. 3 bedrooms, good neighborhood, a garage I've been slowly turning into a proper workshop on weekends. I left the body shop years ago, and now I run the collision department at a dealership group. Good money, good benefits, health insurance that actually covers things. The kind of stable, quiet life I couldn't have imagined at 22 when I was buying guilt rings and ignoring red flags. Hannah is an occupational therapist. She works with kids, mostly developmental stuff, helping them build motor skills and learn how to navigate the world. She's the most patient human being I've ever met, which I think you'd have to be to put up with me. She knows the full Allie story. I told her early on because I believe in being honest about the dumb things you did when you were young, so the person you're with knows exactly who they're getting. She laughed at the damp laundry breakup, said, "If I dumped you every time you left clothes in the dryer too long, we'd have broken up 400 times. She's right. We've got a dog named Brakes, short for no brakes, which is what I said the first time he sprinted across the yard as a puppy and crashed into the fence at full speed without slowing down. He's 4 now, still has no brakes. Name holds up. About a month ago, I was at a grocery store. Saturday morning. Nothing special. Just the usual weekend run. Hannah gave me a list, and I was working through it aisle by aisle the way I always do. Top to bottom. Efficient. I was in the cereal section comparing 2 brands that looked identical, but one cost $2 more, when somebody said my name. I turned around and it was Allie. She looked different. Older, obviously. 12 years will do that. But tired in a way that wasn't about sleep. The kind of tired that lives in your eyes and your shoulders. She was with a kid, a girl, maybe 4 or 5, who was holding a juice box and kicking the bottom of the cart rhythmically. Allie had that look parents get when they've been running on fumes for weeks, and the tank is still empty. "Oh my God, Drew, it's been forever!" I was polite. Said hi, "How are you?" The surface stuff you do when you run into someone from another lifetime. She said she was good, living with my mom again, going through a divorce. She said it casually, like mentioning the weather, but the weight of it was right there in her voice. You could hear it. I didn't ask details, didn't need them, didn't want them. Then she looked at my hand, my wedding band. Her eyes stayed on it for a second longer than normal. "You got married?" "Yeah, 7 years." "Wow, that's really great, Drew." She didn't sound like she thought it was great. She sounded like someone standing outside a restaurant they can't afford. Do you ever think about us?" I'm gonna be honest. In that moment, standing in a grocery store cereal aisle holding a box of whatever, I felt something. Not for her, for the kid I used to be. The 22-year-old who bought a guilt ring and chased a girl who broke up with him 4 times. I felt sad for that version of me, and grateful that he eventually grew up. "No," I said. "I don't." She nodded. Didn't push it, said it was good to see me. I said the same thing back because that's what you say. She walked away with her cart and her kid, and I stood there in the cereal aisle for maybe 30 seconds just processing. 12 years collapsed into one aisle. Everything I'd felt back then, the love, the betrayal, the guilt, the furniture confrontation, all of it flashed through like a highlight reel and then just sort of faded out. Like turning off a TV. Screen goes dark. Move on. Grabbed the cereal. Went home. Told Hannah about it while we unloaded groceries. She listened the whole time without interrupting. Set down a bag of apples, looked at me with that half smile she does when she's about to say something perfect, and said, "Did she try to take the cereal?" I love that woman. I love her so much it's honestly ridiculous. What it taught me. Allie wasn't evil. I need to be clear about that. She was young and selfish and had a mother who taught her that relationships were transactions, where the other person always owed you something. The entitlement at the end, the furniture, the coffee maker, the lamp, the half, that wasn't something she came up with on her own. That was learned. That was Paula. Paula raised a girl who genuinely believed that time invested in another person entitled you to their property. Not their love, not their respect, not even their friendship, their stuff, their physical belongings. Like a relationship was a job, and a breakup was a layoff, and she was owed a severance package. And I was dumb too. I was so dumb it's almost funny if you don't think about it too hard. I ignored the cheating when 2 separate people told me it was happening. I proposed out of guilt instead of having an honest conversation. I let her break up with me 4 times and kept taking her back, because being alone scared me more than being treated badly. I was so afraid of losing something that wasn't even good for me that I held on until my hands were raw. That's not all her fault. A lot of it is mine. I enabled every bit of it by not having enough self-respect to walk away the first time, or the second time, or the third time. Every time she came back and I opened the door, I was telling her that the behavior was acceptable, and she believed me. Why wouldn't she? But the moment she stood in my mom's living room and said, "I'm entitled to half," that was the moment I understood something I've carried with me every day since. Some people don't love you. They love what you provide, the stability, the comfort, the stuff. And the second you stop providing it, or the second they decide they don't need it anymore, they'll try to take whatever they can carry on the way out the door. I don't hate Allie. I haven't for years. But I'm grateful. Grateful that she showed me who she was before I actually married her. Before we shared a lease or a bank account or a mortgage. Before there were kids involved or assets to divide. She showed me at 22 what I needed to see. So that when I met Hannah at 27, I recognized the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves your utility. Good luck, Allie. I said it then standing on my mom's porch. I mean it now standing in my own house with a woman who would never point at a lamp and call it hers. Oh, one thing that still bugs me. When we were together, she borrowed my favorite hoodie, gray zip-up. Nothing expensive. I'd had it since high school. It was broken in perfectly, the kind of soft that takes years to achieve. She never gave it back. I didn't think to ask for it during the pickup because I was too busy defending my mother's lamp. I've bought probably 10 hoodies since then trying to replace it. Gray zip-ups, different brands, different fits. None of them are the same. You can't recreate 10 years of wear. That softness doesn't come from a store. It comes from time. Kind of like relationships, I guess. The good ones take time to break in. The bad ones just break. Probably never gonna find another hoodie like that one. Anyway, wife's great, dog's fast, workshop's coming along, life's good. Edit. People asking about Dylan. No idea what happened to him. Don't care. He was a chapter in somebody else's story, and I closed that book 12 years ago. Edit 2. Breaks update since people keep asking. He's asleep on the couch right now, still 0 breaks. Vet says he's energetic. That's one word for it. He knocked over the Christmas tree last year and then sat in the wreckage looking proud of himself. We don't deserve dogs, honestly. I need to talk about Paula for a second. Paula walked into somebody else's house, a house her daughter never lived in, never paid rent on, never even had a key to, and started pointing at a lamp like she was at an auction. A lamp. That's been on the same side table since before her daughter had a driver's license. Ma'am, that is not your lamp. That has never been your lamp. That lamp has been in that living room longer than your daughter's been in this man's life. The confidence it takes to walk into a stranger's home and claim their coffee maker because your daughter dated their son. That's not entitlement. That's a mental illness with a handbag. And the grocery store thing 12 years later, Drew's married. Dog named Breaks. Workshop in the garage. And Allie's back at her mom's house. Again. Probably still trying to claim half the lamp. Some people figure it out. Some people just keep running the same play and wondering why it stopped working. Drew figured it out. Allie's still running the play. So if you enjoyed today's story, go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. All the links are in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. It really does mean a lot. And having said all that, I will see you in the next one. Peace.